doesn't want some of this in their life? So pretty. I wear many hats. Gardener is one of them. But first and foremost, I'm a mom to 3 little boys, a 4-year-old, a 21-month-old, and a 3-week-old. Nap time's almost over, so if you hear little guys shouting in the background, that's why. So I better hurry this up. Yesterday evening, I gave a little tour of my dahlia bed, and I was able to cut some really beautiful flowers. Unfortunately, the video was cut a little bit short by my crying baby. So today I wanted to just give you a little something extra, and at the end of the video, I'll show you how I do a beautiful arrangement with these dahlias. And I'll also include some other flowers that I have growing this season. Sunflowers, roses, and zinnias. Hi, welcome to my garden. My name's Story. I'm a gardener in Southern Oregon, Zone 8B. And as you can see, I love growing flowers and food. This is the first year that I've spent a significant amount of time growing food, and I'm really happy about that. But this is a special time of year, and I'm excited to show you my dahlias. They've just now started showing themselves, and I want to show them off. There's so much variation within the blooms of the different varieties of dahlias that it makes it really fun to grow them, and they're a wonderful addition to a dining room table. They're the perfect thing to give to a friend or family member for a gift, and they're just gorgeous to have in the garden to look at while you're watering and weeding and doing your thing. Dahlias have a really long season, at least here in my zone. I have plenty of time to be enjoying these flowers. Last year was my first time dividing tubers, and I was under the impression that I needed to do that for my dahlias to be able to continue on each season. After speaking with some local dahlia growers, I'm not so convinced that that's necessary. I think this fall instead, I'll heavily mulch and hope for the best. And if all else fails, I'll just have to buy new tubers. So dividing the tubers was a big experiment for me last season, and it went pretty well. I do have a mixture of the flowers that did well, and that's what I want to showcase today. So this is my debut of this season's dahlias. Last year, this was one of my absolute favorites. One of my weaknesses as a gardener is in labeling. So I can't tell you exactly what the names of each of these varieties are, but I can still show you how beautiful they are. I do remember that this is a Cornell bronze dahlia, and the reason I remember what it's called is because it's such a distinct flower, and I remember specifically buying it from Floret, which is one of my farmer florist idols. Many of these dahlias I actually just bought at my local store called the Growers Market. I'm not too picky, you know. I'll buy flowers and seeds, tubers and corms from pretty much anywhere and give it a try. Again, I don't remember the names of all of these varieties, but this is the one that I like to call Marshmallow. So pretty, obviously, and it has this really cool pattern on the back. So far, one of the most impressive and large blooms has been hiding right behind here, but you can see it's pretty large. One thing that I notice with dahlias is that these bugs love them, which is pretty unfortunate because they're kind of creepy. So I have lots of these yellow-white wispies, as I guess I'll call them. Oh, the bugs love the dahlias. Here's another marshmallowy. And I have surprises still because I don't know what all of them are going to turn out like. I did plant a few new varieties. This dahlia bed is planted in a long trench. They're pretty closely planted together. I planted all the tubers that looked viable and sort of haphazardly, honestly. And even though they're pretty crowded, they seem to be doing okay. I was really hoping to be able to make a longer video for you all about my love for dahlias and growing them. But I'm being summoned back inside by a crying baby. So that'll be all for today's video. Anyway, happy gardening. So just like with gardening, there's no one right way to do it. And the same with flower arranging. There's many ways to do it. I'm not a professional florist. I'm just someone who loves flowers and loves having flowers in their home. So I've been making arrangements in some form or another for a long time. I don't use a lot of the things that professional florists use, like frogs or the green florist foam. I just use the flowers for structural support for one another. As I continue down this path of floral arranging, that may change. But for now, this is how I do it, so I'll share my process. I like to begin with the most sturdy and tallest flowers. And unless the stem length is so short that it'll inhibit the arrangement, I like to cut the flowers again before I put them into the vase. And when I do, I cut them at a 45-degree angle. And that 45-degree angle helps with water absorption so that the stem itself doesn't get blocked and doesn't have an issue uptaking water. So the way that I measure is I take a look at the vase with my longest stem and I hold it down below the table, just about at the length, just about at the height that I want the arrangement to be at its peak. And this is about actually what I'm looking for. So really, I'm just gonna cut the stem again. And when choosing sunflowers, I like to choose sunflowers that have a very small head. And that is so that they don't weigh so much that they droop down. This is such a beautiful one. These sunflowers I've saved seed from my own garden, and I believe they've cross-pollinated with each other. So I can't tell you what exact variety this is, but it looks like it started out as maybe an autumn beauty. With the exception of the dahlias, I just cut these flowers out of the garden earlier this morning. So if you've recently cut them, it's not super necessary to re-clip the stems. I'll take my largest dahlia bloom, one of the ones that I've been calling marshmallow. Might as well call it lavender marshmallow. And I believe it's important in flower arranging to make sure that your arrangement looks great from all angles, not just from one side. So although the camera is facing here, I'm not just going to arrange it so that it looks beautiful from one angle. I try to arrange it so that it's pleasing to the eye from any angle. So you'll see me throughout this video rotating it so I can make sure that that's the case. A lot of the zinnias have quite lengthy stems. And as I put these longer stems in, I try to weave them in together. There are many different varieties of roses. Some are thornless and some, like these, have pretty intense thorns, which is not fun when you're harvesting or working with these flowers. But it is nice for this technique of floral arranging because they do help give some added structural support. They can be difficult to get into the arrangement, and if that's the case, then I do my best without losing the structure that I've been creating. I lift up, wedge it down, and then let everything kind of settle back into place. But those thorns actually help the stability of the arrangement as a whole. So as I'm arranging, I look for these gaps that need to be filled in, and I add the smaller flowers last. And then you can see here this sunflower is drooping a lot, and in this case I want to go ahead and move it over to somewhere where it's going to get more support by another flower to help it stay upright. Something else that's important to take into consideration is removing all of the leaves that will be touching the water. If there are any leaves remaining on the stem that are going to hang out in this water, that will create bacterial growth, which will inhibit the vase life of your arrangement. So this bloom was growing at the apex of the dahlia plant, and it has a very short stem. That'll make it perfect for going right on the edge of the arrangement. It'll just hook right on to the side of the vase. Like that. Similar story with the sunflower here. If you've watched any other videos about floral arranging, you've probably heard the terms fillers and thrillers. I'm not using any fillers that are traditional greens. This is a very show-stopping, heavy arrangement, which I like, and that's what I have mostly in bloom right now. I could pick some ivy. I could put in some ornamental grasses that I have growing around, but I'm not. The filler in this arrangement is the cosmos. They have these really dainty leaves. It's a dainty flower, really, and these are what are called double click cosmos. So they have these double formed petals, which make them more full, which is fun. They usually grow very tall and, like I said, dainty, so they really can just like stick out of the arrangement and create some extra depth. So this is when it's a good time to scan your arrangement and look for those gaps. And right here, I see a perfect gap for this little dahlia. This is what I was talking about earlier in the video, how there's so much variety in the colors, the textures, the form of dahlias, that it really makes for an interesting garden and a pleasurable flower arrangement. And as I'm down to the final couple blossoms, I'll just see where there's somewhere that needs a little extra pop. Use your final flowers to not only create variation and contrast within size and shape and type of flower, but also in color. This bright pink zinnia here really helps to differentiate these lavender marshmallow dahlias. My little guy is definitely awake from his nap now. So I think that's all for this arrangement. Thank you so much for watching. I'll go ahead and give some close-ups and details of the flowers. Happy gardening. I hope you really enjoyed watching this and feel inspired, perhaps learned a thing or two. And if you did, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and also the notification bell, and you can follow along on our family's homestead journey. Thanks.